So, you think you might be a type 4. Maybe you took a test, or a friend of yours who loves the Enneagram told you you're a type 4, and you want to go deeper and learn more. I'm so excited that you're watching this video because in it, I'm going to cover three important things about the type 4. First, we're going to start by looking at the type 4's motivation, fear, and desire. This is the most important piece to understanding any of the 9 types when it comes to using the Enneagram. Next, we'll walk through a type 4 checklist. You might be a type 4 if. Then lastly, we'll walk through my type 4 cheat sheet. At a high level, how does the type 4 show up in the world? Now, if you are new to the Enneagram, it's really important to understand something that sets the Enneagram apart from other personality tools is that it looks at 9 distinct personality types and their motivations rather than looking at their behaviors. So, what does that actually mean? Well, imagine with me, if you will, an iceberg. Now, when we look at the iceberg, we are able to see the very tip of it. Now, if that's the human personality, the tip is like a person's behaviors, the things we can watch them do. So I can observe when someone blows through a red light or is the first to volunteer in a meeting to take notes. These are things that I watch people do. What I don't see is what's underneath the surface. It's that rest of the iceberg. It's why someone did that. Why did someone just blow through that red light or volunteer to be the one to take notes in the meeting? When I understand why someone does the things that they do, it helps me better empathize. It improves my overall emotional intelligence and ultimately gives me a framework for how to interact with people that view the world different from me. Now, before we even get to using it there, though, I think the Enneagram is great at personal growth. It's not about putting you in a box. You are not just a type 4. Unfortunately, we're already in a box of our personality. We default to our personality patterns and programming from how the world has shaped us. The Enneagram is about getting us out of that box, giving us the tools to grow. So, let's dive into the type 4 by looking at the motivation, fear, and desire. So, you might be a type 4 if you are motivated to find your true identity, to be authentic in how you approach the world, and you have easy access to your emotions and expressing them to others. The most important thing for you is to be unique, to avoid the ordinary and mundane and insignificant. The fear being, if I am ordinary and I am just what everyone else is, what value do I bring? Or the fear of just being emotionally disconnected. Ultimately, the desire for a type 4 is to understand and express their authentic selves and to feel deeply connected to their calling. Now, a stereotype that I just have to call out because I think a lot of the times, if you're new to the Enneagram and you're starting to go on social media and see things, a type 4 is always painted as an artist, as if every 4 just has a pack of American spirits in their back pocket and a paintbrush in the other, and they wander through the woods just quoting Emerson. That's not all type 4s. In fact, I have worked with a type 4 who was a computer programmer who had probably never picked up a paintbrush in their life. But what made them unique or special or different is that they had a very specific language that few people could code in outside of themselves. It was how they brought something new and different into the world. And that is the fabric. That's the key to being a type 4. The nomenclature oftentimes associated with a type 4 is the individualist, to not just be like everyone else. What can end up happening with a type 4, though, is they can naturally have a comparing mind of what others have that they don't, or what they have and others don't. Again, those are more behaviors that we're going to get into, but first we have to align around these motivators. So, looking at the type 4 checklist, you might be a type 4 if you feel a deep need to understand yourself and your emotions. You crave authenticity and meaningful connections. You often feel like an outsider, different from those around you. You feel a sense of longing, as if something is missing. You value self expression and often seek creative outlets. You're highly sensitive to beauty and art and emotional depth. You experience envy when others seem to have what you feel you lack. You have a strong desire to be seen, appreciated for your uniqueness. You tend to focus on the past of your feelings of loss. You fear being insignificant or emotionally disconnected from others. Something fours are really good at is being in touch with all emotions. Regardless of whether they're positive or negative, they create a space where all are welcome. Something to highlight, though, is that it's not that a four needs everyone to agree with them and their point of view and how they see the world, but fours have a keen sense of being misunderstood. So it's important for a type 4 to feel understood, to feel heard, and where they're coming from and their point of view of how they see the world. As far as a cheat sheet goes, how that type 4 shows up is they tend to be more emotionally expressive. They can get animated and enthusiastic or worked up when they're expressing their point of view to other people. They tend to be on the more creative side. They see the world and what is missing, and they want to fill that space with something new. They communicate very authentically. Fours have a high BS meter. They know when something is off or if it's false flattery. And what a four craves is earnest and honest dialogue with others. Their strengths are that they bring authenticity and earnestness in everything they do. A four is not going to shapeshift or show up any other way than who they are. Blind spots can be fours have a longing for how things were. They can naturally be nostalgic and reflect back on life. A fear being ordinary or boring or just not unique. Pet peeves are when people are fake with them or don't really listen, that just have an agenda. They're going to push back and challenge. Fours will speak truth to power. They're not afraid to engage in that, especially when it aligns with their authentic code of what makes them them. Challenges can be embracing change or releasing an emotion. Fours can get overly attached to a feeling. It can cause them to identify more with that feeling than their true self. The way others see them are deep and authentic and really seen. Fours are extremely emotionally intelligent and good at reading people and seeing people, meeting them where they're at, and creating space for everyone, regardless of their views or even their background. Now, if you look on the right-hand side, you'll see the type 4 with some other numbers. I'm not going to go in depth on this because this video is really dedicated to just understanding the high level of a type 4. But within the Enneagram, because it's a dynamic tool and one used for growth, the type 4 has two wings, a 3 and a 5, the numbers adjacent to it. So it has access to both of them. It can go to a type 3. It can take on some of the type 3 attributes as well as the type 5. It also has access to a type 1 and a type 2. Those are their arrows. And when doing inner work around awareness and stress, when done well, they can really healthily incorporate both the 1 characteristics and the 2. Like I said, I'll do a more in-depth video where I dive into these different arrows and wings. But I think it's important to note, once you realize your home base, your type 4, starting to see where else you can go, all with that end goal of how do we get you out of the box of your own personality. So, where do we go from here? Maybe you just watched this video and you're thinking everything you just said resonates with my entire being. I feel like I'm a type 4. Well, I do want to highlight the one thing that's really different about the type 4 and something that's unique is the type 4 can show up in 3 very different ways based on what's called the subtype. And I won't go in depth with this, but I think it's really important that when you are starting to engage with the tool, there are 3 different subtypes: self preservation, a social, and a one to one. Now, within the type 4, this changes how the type 4 shows up in the world based on their type's passion as well as their instinct. So I'll leave it at that as a teaser to go deeper, but just know that if you identify as a type 4 and maybe someone else in your life identifies as a type 4 and they look really different in how they behave, you could have different subtypes. Now, the one thing that won't look different though is that you will still have that core motivator, that drive to be unique, to be special, to avoid the mundane or the ordinary. That rings true for all of them. So, great resources to dive deeper to learn more are Beatrice Chestnut's The Complete Enneagram. Another great book is Personality Types Using the Enneagram for Self-Discovery by Riso and Richard Hudson. Beatrice will go much more in depth around subtypes versus Riso and Richard Hudson will go much more into the different levels of health that you'll see with the 9 different types. Then explore. I will have more videos that will come out on this, but understand what is your subtype. And this is, again, so important for the type 4 to understand this. Dive into understanding what it means to fall in the heart center as a type 4, how that influences the way they engage with their emotions, how they see the world, and the image associated with being in the heart center. Or arrow work. I just touched on this in the previous page, but you have access to not only your wings, but your arrows of that 2 and 1. How can you use this to grow so you don't always have to default to your home base of a type 4? And then finally, and this is my favorite part, the practice of self observation. And I love this practice because what it allows you to do is observe your behaviors without any judgment. So the next time you feel very overwhelmed by an emotion and you want to sit with it and you feel very sad, or you're really reflecting back on something that's happened in your past and it's drawing up a lot of feelings, without judgment, pause and think, why is this pulling this up? Reflect so that you can better get in touch with who you are as a person. Now, the Enneagram is a great tool, but the Enneagram is only part of what makes up the complexity that is you as a human being. It's so important to note that on this journey, as you're learning your type and going deeper, only you are the expert on you. No one else, no test can tell you what your type is, not even myself, a certified Enneagram practitioner. But if you are wanting to go deeper, I would encourage you to go to my website and set up some time for what's called a typing interview or a one-on-one coaching session. If you go to 927.com, 927coaching.com, we'll be able to dive into understanding the fabric of you, whether that's a type 4 or maybe even a different number, and how to use it for growth. I love, and this is just the last story that I'll leave with on a type 4. I was doing a corporate Enneagram session, and 5 in the room was saying, I recognize the value and I understand the need to use personality tools in the corporate setting. But at the end of the day, don't we all just respond to these questionnaires based on how we think we have to show up? Like, I can't be my true self in a corporate environment. I have to be professional. And I had a 4 in the back of the room raise her hand and go, "Excuse me? Not a chance." Every day that I show up at work, I show up my full self. I care about the mission of this company. I care about the work that I do. I put my identity into every single project I work on. I don't show up differently with my friends or my family because that's what makes me me. And I love that heartbeat, that authenticity, that earnestness of a type 4 and how they create space, incredible space for everyone and all their feelings so that we can all grow together. So thank you so much